Okay, you guys, what is up? The King of Lightning is here today to talk about the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. The Ten Tails Bijou and the Sage of Six Paths. Now, this discussion is going to be predominantly about the Ten Tails. So, I want to dive right in. Because ever since the last chapter of Naruto, I've really wanted to do a discussion video about the Ten Tails. And I'm going to say off the gate. Two things. First thing, the Ten Tails created the planet where the Naruto characters reside on. He himself created the planet. Number two, the Ten Tails and the Sage of Six Paths cut a deal. They fucking cut a deal. I know they cut a deal. And I'll explain why later on in the video. Alright? But that's what I'm going on right now. Those two things, as of right now. Number one, the Ten Tails created the planet that they live on right now. And number two, the Ten Tails and the Sage of Six Paths cut a deal. They cut a deal. So, that being said, motherfucking Ten Tails. Well, first of all, we do know that the Ten Tails is the keystone. It is the cornerstone of Toby's plan. Toby plans on reviving the Ten Tails, taking its chakra, and then creating the infinite Tsukiyomi, and thus trapping the world, and an infinite Genjutsu, and thus, in his world, creating peace. That is his plan. Now, will this actually go? I'm not too sure. I mean, it is a shonen manga, so I don't see his plan succeeding. But if it does, then Naruto's gonna break out, Rasengan, all that shit. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, or maybe it's Sasuke and Naruto together, teaming up for the very first, technically for, the 30th time, but, teaming up once again, the ultimate tag team, Chidori, Rasengan, it's over, I can see that, I can see that happening, but, when it comes to the Ten Tails itself, okay, I mean, fuck all the Toby shit, right? The Ten Tails itself. It was believed at first that the Ten Tails was some demon. It was some very powerful demon. Some demonic creature that the Sage of Six Paths beat. And then he took the chakra of the Ten Tails, created the moon, sealed the body of the Ten Tails either on the moon, inside the moon, or the body is the moon itself. And then he created the Tail Beast, 1 through 9. Now, the thing here is that this is complete bullshit. Why is it complete bullshit? Because the Nine-Tailed Fox just revealed that there is no way the Ten Tails is a demon, because the Ten Tails is the progenitor of all things that exist in the world of Naruto. Now, let me rephrase that. The whole entire thing with the Sage of Six Paths sealing the body of the moon and the 9 beasts, that's not bullshit. But the Ten Tails being a demon, that's bullshit. That has to be bullshit. There is no way this creature can be a god at the same time, a demon. No. It can't fly like that. It really can't. You can't tell me, because the word progenitor of all things that exist on the planet, that means that everything that exists on the planet, was created by the Ten Tails. That is what the QB means. There is no way a creature with that type of ability to actually create life itself can have the power or would actually be become a demon. I highly doubt that. At some point, did the Ten Tails turn rogue and say fuck it? It's very strange. But I do have a theory on that. I really do. So, now, on to the first theory, okay? Now, the first theory of the reason as to why I believe that the Ten Tails created the planet itself. If you look at the Ten Tails, we've seen its features. The two key features. Number one, it has 10 tails. Duh. Number two, it has an eyeball. And this one eyeball is the combination of the Rinnegan and the Sharingan. The key portion is obviously the Rinnegan. Why is that? Because we all know that the Rinnegan has an ability. And this ability is called the Chibaku Tensei. You know, we saw Pain pull out some earthbending shit, you know. Chibaku Tensei. We saw that, okay? It's basically creating a gravitational ball and we throw it into the sky or something like that, and then it attracts objects to it, and thus creating a sphere-like structure. Now, who's to say that the Ten Tails didn't make the core of this planet? If he has massive, massive amounts of chakra, who's not to say that the Ten Tails created the planet by using a Chibaku Tensei and thus make like a really, really, really big Chibaku Tensei, and thus attracted asteroids and such and comets to the planet, and thus created the planet that the Naruto characters reside on today. It is possible. It is possible. Think about it, because the way his eyeball is shaped, it hints at the Rinnegan and the Sharingan origin not from the Sage of Six Paths, but from the Ten Tails. The origin of the Rinnegan and the Sharingan may have came from the Ten Tails itself, and the Sage of Six Paths attained the Rinnegan by absorbing the chakra of the Ten Tails. Ah, yeah, that's right, that's right. Now, this, honestly, this should be bullshit. It should be bullshit because according to pre-time skip Naruto, it wasn't the Rinnegan and the Sharingan that came first. It was the Rinnegan and the Byakugan. But over the course of the series, Kishimoto said, fuck the Hyuga, fuck the Byakugan. It's going to be all about Sharingan and Rinnegan. So, I mean, I don't know why. To me, it's a huge letdown. I've talked about the Byakugan. I love the Byakugan. The Byakugan for the motherfucking win. But, unfortunately, since we've seen the Ten Tails and its eyeball of the Sharingan and the Rinnegan, we have to assume that the Sharingan and the Rinnegan came before the Byakugan. So, I mean, that's what I can assume. Now, when it comes to the second theory of the Ten Tails and the Sage of Six Paths cutting a deal, this theory is inspired by the fact that there is no fucking way, there is no fucking way the Sage of Six Paths could have been the Ten Tails without its own chakra. There is no fucking way. No way. Okay? Understand, the QB hyped up this motherfucker like no one else. The Ten Tails, quote unquote, could swallow entire oceans and carry continents. How the fuck did the Sage of Six Paths beat the Ten Tails? There is no way. There is literally no way that he did that. And then the question becomes, how on earth is the Ten Tails the progenitor of all things that exist in the world? Literally, everything that we see in Naruto is the child of the Ten Tails. So how on earth would he decide to say, you know what, fuck all this shit, I'm gonna blow up the planet? And thus, his return signifies the end of the world, and thus making him a demon. How is that possible? And this is why I think that the Sage of Six Paths and the Ten Tails cut a deal. Because the Ten Tails isn't evil. There is no way the Ten Tails is evil if the Ten Tails can actually create life itself and make the planet. There's no way. There's no way. So what I'm thinking is this, alright? Hear me out. Hear me out, okay? The Ten Tails, and we don't know what happened prior to the time era. Like, correction, what I should say is that we don't know how the planet was during the era of the Sage of Six Paths. But what I can assume is that during this era in the planet's history, there were a lot of wars between humans. The humans were at war. There was a lot of chaos and strife and so on and so forth. It was a very bad point in time in the planet's history. So, maybe the Ten Tails decided to blow up the planet or destroy the planet and recreate it to start anew. However, the Sage of Six Paths convinced him not to do so, and thus the Ten Tails allowed himself to be absorbed by the Sage of Six Paths, and then the Ten Tails allowed his body to be sealed in the moon, on the moon, or created by, or is the moon itself. And his return is the deal cutter. Maybe the Sage of Six Paths said, you know what? Let me take care of the planet from now on. Let me and my descendants try and bring peace to the world. And if we fail, then you can come back. When you return, you can come back and create a new planet. Maybe that was the deal. Maybe that was the deal. And the Ten Tails agreed to the deal. It is a possibility. It is a possibility. The Ten Tails cut a deal with the Sage of Six Paths, and they agreed that the Sage of Six Paths and his descendants would try and bring the world peace. Because you have to realize that anyone that is related to the Sage of Six Paths, for some reason, always wants fucking peace. It's like, why is that? Toby wants peace in his fucked up way. Naruto wanted peace in his own fucked up way. Naruto wants world peace. It's like, what the fuck? So it's like, clear, come on now. Like, all these fuckers usually want peace. And maybe that's what their duty is. The descendants of the Sage, their duty is to try and bring world peace. And if they fail, then the restoration of the Ten Tails will occur, and then the Ten Tails will destroy the planet and create a new one. Because he is the progenitor, and the progenitor is not going to be a demon. It is going to be a god. Literally a god. So, no. I'm telling you, that's the way it had to go. There is no way the Sage of Six Paths beat the Ten Tails. No way. They cut a deal. Cut a deal. Okay? That's what I truly believe. The Ten Tails was going to usher in a new era by literally creating a new planet. And that to me is my Ten Tails theories on him creating the planet and him cutting a deal with the Sage of Six Paths. Now, that being said, give me your thoughts about the Ten Tails. Give me your thoughts. What do you think about the Ten Tails? Now, there is a theory going around that Naruto has the soul of the Sage of Six Paths inside his body, and that's the reason why his chakra form and his Jubi form and his Bijou mode and his Fox mode are so different as opposed to the other Jinchuriki. So maybe if the Sage of Six Paths returns for a little bit, maybe Naruto will ask him, how the fuck did you beat the Ten Tails? What happened between you and him? That would be a question of the goddamn year. So, but yeah. With that being said, give me your thoughts on the Ten Tails, on your thoughts on the Sage of Six Paths, and I'll see you guys later. King of Lightning. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe as always. Peace. Have a nice day.